We're going to talk about some uncommons that I think are going to perform well over the years. I think that all of these cards have really good commander playability, and they're all like $2 or less. Let's just start the video. Highest level of gratitude to our patrons who power the channel through Patreon. Check out the Patreon link in the description to learn about monthly giveaways, VIP Discord access, and even our official playmat. Hello and welcome to the day. Thank you for spending your time with us. I'm Jake, and welcome back to another episode of Jake and Joel Are Magic. Today we have a fun one. I typically make these lists of uncommons, and the reason I do this, and I'll show you in a minute when we get into the meat here, the reason I do this is because uncommons, enchantments, artifacts, sometimes creatures, they perform really well over the years, especially if it like gives a buff to a tribe, if it's something that just gives all your creatures haste, for example, something like Rhythm of the Wild. I'm doing this for myself, but I'm going to tell other people the uncommons that I think have low risk, meaning you could buy them now and most likely they're going to do well as time passes. They come out of standard legal sets. So we have Call Time, Strixhaven, Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. We have some Vow, Hunt, even a little bit of Zendikar Rising. I'm going to tell you how many printings there are of the card, and then I'm also going to tell you where you can find the card. A couple of these are like kind of weird. One of them only appears in a set booster and a theme booster. Before we get in the video, you should know that nothing on this channel is financial advice. If you do like these videos, click like and subscribe. It's the best way to support the channel. We're going to talk about some uncommons, but first I'm going to tell you why I've chosen uncommons today, why we're not talking about rares or commons. Let's go ahead and get into this. All right, so today we are going to use Card Kingdom, and the reason that we are going to use Card Kingdom is because for convenience, if in theory, if you did want to pick one of these up, if you wanted to grab one of each, you could just do it all over here. Normally, I would use eBay. I would be scouring for, you know, the lowest possible price, so make sure to do your own due diligence. Make sure to look up prices. Take all prices with a grain of salt. We're going to go here. We're going to go to Magic the Gathering, and we are going to go standard format. No, actually, let's go modern. All right, so we're going to go modern format, and then what we're going to do, we're going to set our filters over here. Rarity, uncommon, and then what we're going to do is we're going to sort by price, high to low. There we go. Modern, uncommons, and I just want you to kind of understand. Now, some of these are scarce. They're from like Champions and Darksteel, but I just want you to see how uncommons perform over the years. Now, some of these have been upshifted. Top got upshifted to rare in Eternal Masters. Aether Vial has been upshifted to rare in the sets that it's printed in, but we're just going to go through here, and these are cards that are currently modern legal. Okay, now Steel Shapers get, unless it is on the ban list, of course, but we could see Steel Shaper's Gift, $20 card. This is an uncommon. Triumph of the Hordes, uncommon from New Phyrexia. This is $18. Again, take these prices with a grain of salt. Mishra's Bauble, uncommon. Whatever it gets printed, it goes down to $3 and then it bounces all the way back up. These cards are highly desirable. Let's go down and we're going to see how close, how long it takes us before we find like a recent set. We have Pitiless Plunderer. This is kind of like one of the standouts that I'm talking about. In each new set that comes out, you get a couple of those. Exsanguinate has been a $10 card for, God, as long as I can remember since we've been playing Commander. These monuments, for example, Amonkhet came out April 28th, 2017. These monuments, they didn't do anything for a long time. These were just chaff. Like, I passed so many of these in draft. So do keep in mind, as of the filming of this video, it is March 2022, and this was in 2017 that these would have been, you know, 25 cents, maybe less. But if you did pick this up, you'd be happy to know that Bantu's Monument, when you read it, it's like, oh, black creature spells cost 1 less to cast. That's going to be really good in a lot of commander decks. Whenever you cast a creature spell, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. It's a really, really good ability that fits into a lot of like aristocrats type strategies, right? Eternal Witness, you know, the bread and butter. Liliana's Caress, like just whenever an opponent discards a card, that player loses 2 life. When something like Kroxa comes out, for example, cards like this gain steam. Mind Crank, I remember this being just junk. Whenever an opponent loses life, that player mills that many cards. And then keep in mind, these are modern legal cards. So any set that comes out, modern MTG set, like we just had Neon Dynasty, we're going to have New Capenna. All of these are going to be modern legal cards. So it's a good practice, in my opinion, to go through here. Expressive Iteration. This is a $6 uncommon that came out of Strixhaven. You may have missed that card. And there's just so many more. Knight's Whisper. Balaged Recovery. $5 card. That card was so cheap when Zendikar Rising first came out. So you can see how some of these have already appreciated. And a lot of this stuff is older stuff. A lot of this stuff is scarce. Once it gets reprinted, it will have an adjustment. You could just see the cards that are targeted over the years. You could kind of understand, oh, you know, like Vandal Blast, $5 card. It makes perfect sense. In Commander, everybody's running a pile of mana rocks. Vandal Blast is going to destroy all those. So I have a list of cards that are from a lot of the new sets. Like I said, Kaladesh, Strixhaven, Adventures in Forgotten Realms, Crimson Vow, Midnight Hunt, and then one Zendikar Rising card myself. Let's go ahead and talk about my actual picks that are around $2 or less. A lot of these, again, are very cheap, very good cards that I think are going to have eternal Commander playability in certain archetypes. They're not all going to be good in every deck, but I will talk about basic strategy. Obviously, that needs to be in this video. A little bit of like the application where I think they're going to do well. Obviously, that needs to be in here. And then I'm going to talk about where you can find the card, how many printings. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so the first card that I'm going to emphasize is Sejiri Shelter. And this comes out of Zendikar Rising. It has one printing. The reason this is on my list is because of versatility. If you need a land, you can play it as a land. And then it also offers a nice protection spell for your commander. Pretty basic stuff. These modal dual face cards that came out of Zendikar Rising have proven to be more and more popular. Like we were just talking about Balaged Recovery. This card comes from the same set, and I think at $1, it's kind of a no-brainer to have at least a copy of this card for Commander. Next up, let's go on over to Kaladesh and talk about Rampage of the Valkyries. So Rampage of the Valkyries is interesting. It has one printing ever. Okay, for 5 mana here, you're getting a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying and vigilance. It's a nice threat. In Commander, it's not a super big threat, but a 4/4 flyer with vigilance is pretty sweet. It's going to be a nice blocker in a lot of situations, nice attacker in a lot of situations. Whenever an angel you control dies, each other player sacrifices a creature. So this is pretty nuts, right? What you need to know about this card, no foil variant. This card was only printed in set and theme boosters. Kind of difficult to acquire it. $1.79 for Rampage of the Valkyries. Again, take all these prices with a grain of salt, but this isn't that bad, right? I mean, cards like Maskwood Nexus come to mind. You can make angels, and then if you have something like, for example, an Ashnod's Altar, something like that to just sack them, then that static ability on Rampage of the Valkyries becomes pretty strong, right? Whenever an angel you control dies, each other player sacks a creature. So whether they're dying from combat damage, getting killed by your opponent's removal, or you're sacking them yourself, this gives you a really nice way in an angel deck. You know, think Liesa, for example. Now, I should say this. This video, think of it as like medium power level in a highly synergized angel build. This card can probably go in and do well at high power, but we're not really talking about CEDH here. We're just talking about cards that are going to do well over time. Again, nothing on this channel is financial advice, but yeah, pretty fun card. Seems like an auto include in Black White Angels. I found this card and I was like, yeah, that's definitely going to make the list. What you need to know about me, I'm very serious about enchantments, artifacts. They're so difficult to answer. The value of a card, whether it's rare, uncommon, if it's a good artifact, a good enchantment, it's going to do things. You know, think of the cards like Ghostly Prison, Propaganda. These are powerhouse uncommons that are staples in Commander just because they are so pesky. And I think this card is pesky as well. It brings a nice beefy creature with it, and then it offers a nice static ability that if you build around it can be very, very annoying and very difficult for your opponents to deal with. Each other player sacks a creature whenever you sack one. That's 3 for 1 once you get the engine set up. Pretty good card. Next up, we're heading on over to Strixhaven. Now, Stormkiln Artist, for a lot of you, is going to require no introduction, but for those of you who might just be stopping by, let's go ahead and talk about this card. It is very, very strong in any Artifact Matters build. It's going to get that +1/+0 for each artifact you control. So if you are running a pile of artifacts, this is going to have a high power. The other thing about Stormkiln Artist is it has Magecraft, which whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, create a treasure token. So pretty powerful, especially when we have stuff like the Treasure Goblin, Dockside Extortionist that brings all the treasure. We have Revel in Riches. We have Prosper that came out. Wizards of the Coast has put more and more emphasis on treasure over the years. So this card at 4 mana, even though it only has a 2 toughness, is a very strong card that you should consider picking up. It's around $2.29 on Card Kingdom, but you could probably find it for a better price. And then the foil multiplier on this card, let's go ahead and check it. Let's see if there is one. Is only $3.49, so only about $1.20 more there to pick up the foil of this card. It has one printing, and the big thing you need to know is like treasure matters. So in any kind of spell slinger deck, if you're casting a lot of instants or sorceries, this card is really going to do well. And then that treasure is going to put you over the top, and in certain situations, that treasure is just going to win you the game if you build it the right way. Very strong card, definitely should be on your radar if it isn't already. Definitely worth having a copy. And on our way to the next class, let's go ahead and talk about Plumb the Forbidden. Plumb the Forbidden, one printing, Lathril comes to mind, right? Any like go wide kind of strategy, this is going to get around any kind of board wipe. For 2 mana, 1 black and 1 other, I mean, the mana value on this is just nuts. Whenever you cast this spell, you may sacrifice 1 or more creatures. When you do, copy this spell for each creature sacrificed this way. I mean, this is nuts, right? You draw a card and you lose 1 life. So if your board gets blown up, you have 5 creatures out there. Hell, maybe you have 10. Just pay 10 life, draw 10 cards. Card draw in Magic the Gathering is, in my opinion, the biggest, best ability that anything can have. If something is drawing a card, that effect, just giving you another answer in hand, giving you something else to do, card draw wins the game. The people with more cards, they have more answers, and oftentimes they're able to close out the game because they have more to do. If you're running, like, for example, I run red, black, Wart, Goblin, go wide, this would be an auto include in that deck. I haven't played that deck in a while, but if I ever put it back together, this card would absolutely go in it. And the last card we have from Strixhaven here is Fracture. This has 2 printings. It has this one, and it also has the promo. But yeah, versatility again. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. It's a disenchant. But instead of it being 1 white and 1 other, they decided to add black, and it just gives us Planeswalker as well. Planeswalkers in EDH, they're hit or miss. They're going to really thrive in decks like Atraxa, obviously. Planeswalkers aren't super potent. But for the deck that does have them, this is going to provide the answer. Otherwise, you're going to be able to ace all those pesky artifacts, all those pesky enchantments. It doesn't have Destroy Creature on it. That would just make it way too good. But yeah, very strong card, and a card definitely worth considering. Only 69 cents on this one, so very, very low risk. Again, all of these I think are low risk. Very little room for these to drop more. I think that, you know, a lot of these sets are established. They've been out for a while. These are standard sets, so when sets rotate, there's going to be maybe a little bit of a dip on these cards, but it's worth it to have them for the collection. This is a great card. Again, we were talking about Liesa. This would fit well in there, or any deck that's black-white. And I do want to hear from you at the end of the video. Make sure to let me know if there's something that I forgot, something that you think is needs to be included, maybe that I missed, or something that you're like, Jake, that card did not need to be on the list. What is wrong with you? I want to hear that feedback as well. That helps me in the future grow and be able to create better videos for you that are more meaningful. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, because we have some fun ones over there. First card, it's a card that has 2 printings. It's a promo, and it's got its base copy, and that is Power Word Kill. So this card comes to us from AFR. If you've ever played D&D, you've probably heard of this spell before, Power Word Kill. It has 2 printings, like we said, the promo and the regular version. This card rarely won't have a target. The way that I describe this card is I like it a lot more than Doomblade, and I like it a little bit less than Go for the Throat. Destroy target non-angel, non-demon, non-devil, non-dragon creature. So if you're going against the Dragon, or if you happen to be playing against, Liesa, like I was just talking about, Avacyn, there's definitely targets that this card is not going to hit. Lots of dragons. Devils are very much less relevant, in my opinion. Demons, I kind of feel the same way. But you're going to have an epic amount of targets with this card. There are certain situations where it's going to be a dead card, but I think that they're so few and far between. Low mana value, only 2 mana for this card. It's a kill spell. Kill spells in Commander, some people are like, oh no, you don't need to run kill spells. I'm of the camp that you absolutely need to run kill spells. You're never going to hate having an answer to the thing that's about to fly over and kill you. Unless, in this instance, the thing flying over is an angel, demon, or dragon. If it's a flying devil, we have a whole new set of problems. So let's talk about some enchantments, which are my favorite permanent type. The first one is Cleric class. These effects stack. Okay, so when you play this for 1, you get that static ability that says if you would gain life, you gain that much life plus 1 instead. Okay, so pretty basic. But once you level this up in Commander, so that level 2 for 1 white and 3 other, and you can only level up as a sorcery, that's the drawback of these cards. Whenever you gain life, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. So now your life gain, so you clearly build this into a life gain deck. Now your life gain is going to put counters on your creatures. So you're going to grow your creatures when you gain life, and then finally when you pay that 5, 1 white and 4 other to level this up to level 3, when this class becomes level 3, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, you gain life equal to its toughness. On Cleric class, only 1 printing, Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. The only drawback again with this is leveling up at sorcery speed. It's the only thing I don't like about these. Another card with the low mana value, lots of velocity, you're drawing cards here. Also, you're getting counters again from this one. First level for 1 blue, you're getting no maximum hand size. It's pretty sweet. And then for 1 blue and 2 other, when this class becomes level 2, draw 2 cards. That's velocity. That's digging through your deck. I love this effect. It's very good. And then whenever you draw a card, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. And that is a 5 mana investment. So that's going to turn all your draws, your pull from tomorrows, all of your mind springs, any type of effect that's going to get you a bunch of cards. It is going to just grow something on your board. Think of something like an Invisible Stalker, hexproof, unblockable, something like that. I think that this card has a lot of potential. That level 2, after you draw the cards, you're not drawing more cards. There's nothing passive there, but you still have no maximum hand size, and you still have, whenever you draw a card, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. That isn't whenever you draw 1 or more cards. That is whenever you draw a card. So if you draw 10 cards, you're putting 10 counters on something. Even though this is 5 mana and that mana investment is a little bit steep, I still think this card is worth considering. And I think at $1.79, still low risk, not financial advice, fun card. All right, now we're over at Midnight Hunt, and the first card we're starting with is Faithful Mending. This card is on the list because of Flashback, because it represents 4 cards and life gain. So for 1 blue and 1 white, you're gaining 2 life, you're drawing 2 cards, then you're discarding 2 cards. So yeah, you're discarding things. That's fine. You can work with that, especially if you're running stuff with Delve, anything like that, anything that's fine, throwing stuff into the graveyard. You want this, it's fine. Just rifle through cards, pitch stuff you don't need. You have too many lands, you have too many non-lands, you're just trying to like draw cards. I love this card for that. And then you're also gaining the 2 life. And then you flash it back for 3, you do the same thing again. This card is on the list solely because of velocity. It's only $1.49. It has 2 printings. It has this printing and it also has a promo printing. I'm going to bring up that image for you as well. Velocity, velocity, velocity. There's 4 life and 4 cards to be drawn off of this, all for 5 mana in that flashback. Flashback is so good. Getting something later out of your graveyard for an additional cost. If your graveyard can become your second hand and you have spells that you can cast from your graveyard, that puts you ahead of the game. That gives you stuff to do when you maybe don't have anything to do in hand. Maybe you're having dead draws. Flash this card back, draw some cards, pitch the stuff you don't need, get back in the game. Now, some folks called this next card overrated, but I think it's great. Moonsilver Key. This card has 2 printings. Some basic stuff comes to mind with this card, right? Your soul rings, your mana crypts. When you sacrifice this, you're searching your library for an artifact card with a mana ability or a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. But it's not just soul rings and mana crypts that I would think about. You know, there's Lion's Eye Diamonds, there's Mox Diamonds. If you're playing this in a higher power level, you might not be playing it in a higher power level. Maybe you just go grab, you know, your Phyrexian Altar. Maybe you want to go get that combo piece on the board. Maybe you want your Great Henge. There are some big cards that you can grab with Moonsilver Key. So don't sleep on it. It's only 79 cents. If you're the kind of player that you always want to get your Great Henge online, this is a great way to do it. A little bit of redundancy. You could play this alongside other tutors. But if you're on a budget, maybe you can't afford Demonic Tutor, but you know that you're always tutoring Great Henge overpowered craziness. This is a great way to do it. This is a great way to make sure that you're able to find that all for a 3 mana investment. Get the card in hand. Great card. Love it. Last card on our list today, we do have something from Crimson Vow. A 2 printing card that came to us in Crimson Vow and also double featured this weird set that a lot of people hated, but the cards do have a high multiplier. How about a card that just, for 1 blue, straight up counters the commander? It has this interesting cleave ability that says you may cast a spell for its cleave cost. So if you pay 2 blue and 1 other instead of the 1 blue that the card costs, then you're countering target spell. But it is counter target spell that wasn't cast from its owner's hand. Commander from the command zone, this card is always going to be relevant. This card in Commander will always be relevant. Going into any Commander game, any pod, you know that you're going to be playing against at least 3 other commanders. If you're going into a pod of 4, you're like, well, it doesn't matter what the commanders are. I have Wash Away, which is a counter spell that's going to allow me to counter those commanders on the spot. Doesn't matter what they are, unless they say can't be countered. But yeah, very strong card, very fun card, and definitely worth consideration. I hope you enjoyed the list. Everything on this today was like $2.50 or less. So if you're sleeping on any of these, if you think any of them, you're like, you know what, that card seems good. I think it's good too. Let me know again what I missed, what you think needed to be on here, what you think needed to just like, Jake, axe it. That card had no business being on your list. Let me know that as well. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to make more like it because like I said earlier in the video, in the beginning, uncommons perform really well over the years. Just look at some of like Rhythm of the Wild, for example, that came out. There's a card that just came out in Neon Dynasty that's like Rhythm of the Wild. These are the kind of cards that you need to keep in mind, in your back pocket. What are cheap, good budget commander cards? They are lurking all around in that uncommon slot. I'm Jake with Jake and Joler Magic. I will see you later. Goodbye.